The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Ambassador Daniel Carter stepped onto the polished floors of the Galactic Council station. The air smelled different here. It was clean and cold and carried strange scents that his human nose could not identify. He stood still for a moment, letting his eyes adjust to the bright lights that hung from the ceiling like captured stars. Daniel was 53 years old. His hair had turned gray at the sides, and small lines marked the corners of his eyes. He wore a simple black suit with a white shirt and a dark blue tie. Nothing about him looked special or dangerous. He looked like what he was supposed to be: a diplomat. A man who solved problems with words and handshakes. But Daniel Carter was much more than that dot behind him. Two younger members of his team walked out of the shuttle. Laura Mitchell was 31 years old with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She carried a small tablet computer and wore the standard gray uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. Kevin Price was 28, tall and thin, with nervous hands that kept adjusting his glasses. He was new to space travel, and the size of the council station clearly amazed him. The station was enormous. It hung in the empty space between 3 star systems, and it served as the meeting place for all the species that made up the Galactic Council. Thousands of aliens from hundreds of worlds came here to trade, to argue, and to make the laws that govern the galaxy. Humans had only discovered this place 12 years ago, when a Valkyrie scout ship had found Earth and decided that the small blue planet was worth watching. Since then, humanity had learned many things. They learned that they were not alone in the universe. They learned that faster-than-light travel was possible. They learned that the galaxy was ruled by 3 powerful species who had been in charge for thousands of years. The Valkyrie were reptiles with green scales and sharp claws. The Crossians were giant insects with hard shells and clicking mandibles. The Dorvani were soft creatures that looked like walking jellyfish. Together, these 3 species controlled everything. And they did not like humans. Daniel had read all the reports before coming here. The council saw humanity as a problem. Humans bred too fast. They spread too quickly. They asked too many questions and did not show proper respect to their betters. The council had already rejected 3 human requests for mining rights in the Kepler sector. Each time, they gave a different excuse. Each time, the message was the same. Humans were not welcome at the table of galactic power, but Earth needed those mining rights. The Kepler sector contained rare minerals that humans needed to build better ships and better technology. Without those resources, humanity would fall behind. They would remain weak and dependent on the goodwill of species that had none to give. So Earth had sent Daniel Carter. Not because he was their best talker. Not because he had the most experience with aliens. They sent him because the people who knew his real history understood that if something went wrong, Daniel was the only man who could handle it. A Valkyrie official walked toward them. He was shorter than Daniel, with dull green scales and small yellow eyes. He wore a red robe that marked him as a low-ranking servant of the council. His translator device hung around his neck like a collar. "Ambassador Carter," the Valkyrie said. His voice came out as a series of hisses and clicks, but the translator turned it into flat English words. "I am Coordinator Thiessen. I will take you to your quarters. The council will see you tomorrow." Daniel nodded politely. "Thank you, Coordinator. We appreciate the welcome." Thiessen did not respond to the thanks. He simply turned and began walking down a long corridor. Daniel followed, with Laura and Kevin close behind as they walked. Daniel studied everything around him. He noted the positions of the security cameras. He counted the guards standing at each intersection. He watched how the other aliens moved through the station, which doors they used, which areas they avoided. It was an old habit, one that had saved his life many times in his previous career, 20-6 years. That was how long Daniel had served in a part of the military that did not have a name. He had operated in places that did not appear on any map. He had completed missions that would never be written down in any history book. His colleagues in that dark world had called him the Reaper. He had earned that name with blood and silence and a kind of efficiency that made other killers uncomfortable. But that was the past. Daniel had left that life behind when he turned 45. He had traded his weapons for words. He had learned to solve problems without leaving bodies on the floor. He had become a diplomat because he was tired of death, or so he told himself. Lavra moved closer to him as they walked. She spoke quietly so that Thiessen could not hear. "Sir, I am picking up some strange readings. There are a lot of armed guards in this section. More than the report said there would be." Daniel had already noticed. "I see them. This does not feel right," Lavra continued. "The energy signatures are too high for a normal diplomatic visit. It feels more like they are preparing for a fight." Kevin overheard, and his face went pale. "A fight? But we are just here to talk. We do not even have weapons." Daniel did not look at either of them. He kept his eyes forward, his expression calm and blank. "Stay close to me when we reach the council chamber. If anything happens, do exactly what I tell you. Do not try to be brave. Do not try to help. Just stay behind me and stay alive." Laura's eyes widened. "Sir, what do you know?" "Nothing certain," Daniel said. "But I have learned to trust my instincts. And my instincts tell me that the council did not invite us here to make a deal." They continued walking through the station. The corridors became wider and more decorated as they approached the central section. Paintings hung on the walls, showing great moments in council history. Statues of famous Velthari and Crossian leaders stood in alcoves. Everything was designed to make visitors feel small and unimportant. Daniel felt neither. He had walked through the halls of power many times in his life. He had met kings and generals and criminals who ruled nations. None of them had scared him. These aliens were no different. They reached a set of large doors made from some kind of dark metal. Thiessen stopped and turned to face them. "These are your quarters," he said. "Food and water have been prepared for your species. Rest well. Tomorrow will be an important day." The way he said it made Daniel's skin prickle. There was something in the alien's voice. Something that sounded almost like anticipation. Like Thiessen knew something that Daniel did not. Daniel smiled politely. "Thank you, Coordinator. We look forward to it." Thiessen walked away without another word. The doors slid open, and Daniel led his team inside. The room was large and comfortable, with beds and chairs designed for human bodies. But Daniel did not relax. He checked every corner of the room. He looked for hidden cameras and listening devices. He tested the doors and windows. Lara watched him with growing concern. "Sir, you are scaring me. What is going on?" Daniel finished his inspection and turned to face his two young colleagues. His expression was serious but calm. "I am probably wrong," he said. "But if I am right, tomorrow is going to be very different from what we planned. I need you both to promise me something. If things go bad, you run. You get back to the shuttle, and you leave. Do not wait for me. Do not look back. Just go." Kevin swallowed hard. "What about you?" Daniel looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death to fear it anymore. "Do not worry about me," he said quietly. "I have survived worse." He turned away and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright against the endless black of space. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting for news. Waiting for hope. Waiting for the resources they needed to survive in a galaxy that did not want them. Daniel had come here to give them that hope. One way or another, he would not fail, even if it meant becoming the Reaper one more time. The next morning came too quickly. Daniel had not slept well. His dreams had been filled with old memories. Faces of people he had killed. Sounds of gunfire and screaming. The smell of blood and smoke. He had woken up 3 times during the night, his hand reaching for a weapon that was not there. He showered and dressed in a fresh suit. This one was also black, simple, and professional. He looked at himself in the mirror and practiced his diplomatic smile. The smile that said nothing and hid everything. Laura and Kevin were already waiting in the main room when he came out. They looked nervous. Laura had dark circles under her eyes, and Kevin could not stop his hands from shaking. They had both felt the wrongness of this place. They both knew that something bad was coming. Coordinator Thiessen arrived exactly on time. He led them through the station without speaking. The corridors were emptier today. Daniel noticed that the aliens they passed looked away quickly, as if they did not want to be seen near the human delegation. That was not a good sign. They reached the council chamber after a 10-minute walk. The doors were massive, made from the same dark metal as the doors to their quarters. Strange symbols were carved into the surface, writing in a language that humans have not yet learned to read. Thiessen stopped and faced them. The council is ready for you. Enter and show proper respect. Daniel nodded. Thank you for your guidance, Coordinator. Thiessen's small yellow eyes flickered with something that might have been pity. Then he turned and walked away, leaving them alone in front of the great doors. Laura touched Daniel's arm. Sir, I have a bad feeling about this. I know, Daniel said. Remember what I told you. Stay behind me. Follow my lead. And if I tell you to run, you run. The doors swung open on their own. Beyond them lay a room larger than any building Daniel had ever seen on Earth. The ceiling rose up and up until it became a dome painted with maps of the galaxy. Rows of seats climbed the walls like stairs, filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. At the center of the room was a raised platform where 3 figures sat on tall chairs made of crystal and gold. High Chancellor Vorath of the Velthary sat in the middle. He was larger than the other Velthary Daniel had seen, with dark green scales that shimmered in the light. His eyes were bright yellow and filled with cold intelligence. He wore a crown of twisted metal on his head and robes of deep purple that pooled around his clawed feet. To his left sat Sketh, the Crossian representative. Sketh was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, with a black shell that gleamed like polished armor. His mandibles clicked constantly, making sounds that the translator could not fully capture. 4 arms emerged from his body, each ending in sharp pincers that could cut through steel. To the right sat the Dovani representative. Daniel did not know this one's name. The Dovani were harder to read than the others. Their bodies were soft and translucent, filled with glowing fluids that changed color with their moods. Right now, the fluids were a sickly yellow that suggested discomfort or fear. Daniel walked toward the platform with Laura and Kevin following close behind. He stopped at the proper distance and bowed his head slightly. Not too deep, just enough to show respect without showing weakness. High Chancellor Vorath, he said clearly. I am Ambassador Daniel Carter of the United Earth Government. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We come with hope for a peaceful and productive discussion. Vorath leaned forward in his chair, his lips pulled back from his teeth, and something that was supposed to be a smile but looked more like a threat. Ambassador Carter, he said through his translator, how kind of Earth to send us their finest. We have heard much about you. A man of words and wisdom, they say. A man who solves problems without violence. Daniel kept his face blank. I try my best, High Chancellor. Yes, Vorath said slowly. You do. And that is the problem. He raised one clawed hand and made a gesture. The massive doors behind Daniel slammed shut with a boom that echoed through the chamber. At the same moment, armed guards stepped out from behind the columns that lined the walls. Daniel counted them quickly. 18 soldiers, 12 Velthary and 6 Crossians. all carrying plasma rifles that glowed with charged energy. Laura gasped. Kevin made a small sound of fear. Daniel did not move. "High Chancellor," he said calmly. "May I ask the meaning of this?" Vorath stood up from his chair. "The meaning is simple, human. Your species has become a problem. You grow too fast. You learn too quickly. You do not understand your place in the order of things. We have watched you for 12 years, and we have decided that you must be taught a lesson." Sketh's mandibles clicked with amusement. "The Council has voted. Humanity must learn humility. And the lesson begins with you." Daniel felt Laura press against his back. He could hear her breathing fast and shallow. Kevin was frozen, unable to move or speak. "I see," Daniel said. His voice remained steady. "And what exactly does this lesson involve?" Vorath's smile widened. "We are going to kill you, Ambassador. Slowly and painfully. We will record your deaths and send the recordings to your government. Future human diplomats will understand that they come to this council as beggars, not as equals. They will bow deeper. They will ask for less. They will learn their place." The Dorvani representative shifted nervously in its chair. Its fluids had turned a dark orange color. It clearly did not approve of this plan, but it was too afraid to speak against it. Daniel looked at the guards surrounding them. He studied their positions, their weapons, their stances. They were confident. They thought this would be easy. They thought they were about to execute 3 helpless humans who had no way to fight back. They were wrong. "High Chancellor," Daniel said, "I'm going to ask you one time to reconsider this decision. Release my people. Let us return to our ship. We will forget this incident ever happened. We will tell our government that negotiations broke down, but that there is still hope for the future. No one needs to die today." Vorath laughed. It was an ugly sound, full of contempt. "You threaten me. You are one human, unarmed, surrounded by my best soldiers. And you threaten me?" "I am not threatening you," Daniel said quietly. "I am giving you a chance. One chance. Take it." Sketh rose from his chair, his forearms spreading wide. "Enough of this. I grow tired of human arrogance. Kill them all." The guards raised their weapons. 18 plasma rifles pointed at 3 humans who had nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Daniel turned his head slightly and spoke over his shoulder. "Laura, Kevin, get behind that column, now." Then he moved. Laura would later try to describe what happened next. She would struggle to find the words. She would say that it was like watching something from a dream or a nightmare. She would say that the calm, gray-haired diplomat vanished in that moment, and something else took his place. Something that moved like death itself. The first guard was 2 meters away. He was a Velthari, young and confident, his clawed finger already pulling the trigger of his plasma rifle. He expected the human to stand still. He expected to see fear in those gray eyes. He expected an easy kill. He was dead before he understood how wrong he was. Daniel moved faster than any human should be able to move. His right hand shot out like a striking snake and caught the guard's wrist. He twisted hard to the left. Bones cracked. The rifle fell free. In the same motion, Daniel drove his elbow into the guard's throat with enough force to crush the windpipe. The Velthari collapsed, choking on his own blood. 1 second had passed. Daniel caught the falling rifle before it hit the ground. He brought it up smoothly and fired twice. 2 more guards dropped. Holes burned through their chests. The plasma bolts had punched through their armor like it was made of paper. The other guards finally reacted. They opened fire, filling the air with bright streaks of deadly energy. But Daniel was no longer where he had been. He had already moved, rolling low across the floor, coming up behind a stone column. Plasma bolts scorched the air where he had stood a heartbeat before. Laura and Kevin had made it to cover. They pressed themselves against the column on the far side of the room, watching in shock as their ambassador became something out of a nightmare. Daniel burst from behind his column, rifle firing. 3 more guards fell. He moved constantly, never staying in one place, always finding angles that the guards could not predict. A Crossian swung at him with a blade made of glowing energy. Daniel ducked under the swing, grabbed the alien's arm, and used its own momentum to throw it into 2 other guards. All 3 crashed to the ground, and a tangle of limbs and weapons. Daniel shot the fallen guards before they could recover. 9 down. 9 to go. The remaining guards tried to regroup. They spread out, trying to catch him in a crossfire. It was the smart thing to do. Against a normal enemy, it might have worked. Daniel was not a normal enemy. He picked up a fallen blade from a dead Crossian and threw it across the room. It spun through the air and buried itself in a Velthari guard's neck. The guard fell. Daniel was already moving again, closing the distance to the next enemy before the body hit the floor. A Crossian soldier charged at him, all 4 arms swinging. The alien was huge, twice Daniel's size, covered in armor that could stop most weapons. Daniel did not try to stop it. He stepped to the side at the last moment, letting the Crossian's momentum carry it past him. Then he jumped onto its back, wrapped his arms around its neck, and twisted. The crack of the breaking spine echoed through the chamber. Daniel rode the falling body to the ground, rolling off and coming up with another rifle in his hands. He fired 4 times in rapid succession. 4 more guards dropped. 3 left. The remaining Velthari guards had finally understood what they were facing. The confidence was gone from their eyes. Now there was only fear. They backed away, their weapons shaking in their clawed hands. Daniel walked toward them. He did not run. He did not hurry. He walked calmly, like a man taking a stroll through a garden. His suit was barely wrinkled. His breathing was steady. Only his eyes had changed. They were cold now, empty, the eyes of a man who had done this many times before. "Please," one of the guards said. His translator made the words sound flat and mechanical, but the terror in his voice was clear. "Please, we were only following orders." Daniel stopped in front of him. He looked at the guard for a long moment. Then he spoke. "I gave you a chance," he said quietly. "Your leaders chose not to take it." He moved 3 times. 3 bodies fell. The chamber was silent. 18 guards lay dead on the polished floor. The fight had lasted less than a minute. Daniel stood in the center of the carnage, still holding a plasma rifle, his face as calm as it had been when he first walked into the room. Lavra stepped out from behind her column. Her legs were shaking so badly that she could barely walk. Kevin followed her, his face white as paper, his glasses crooked on his nose. They stared at Daniel like they had never seen him before, because in a way, they had not thought High Chancellor Varth had risen from his seat. His scales had turned pale, losing their dark green color. His yellow eyes were wide with a fear that Daniel had seen many times in his life. The fear of a predator who had suddenly become prey. Sketh was still standing, but his mandibles had stopped clicking. His forearms hung limp at his sides. For the first time in his long life, the Crossian did not know what to do. The Dovani representative had fled. Daniel had seen it slip through a side door during the fighting. He did not care. The Dovani were not the ones who had ordered his death. Daniel dropped the rifle and straightened his tie. He brushed a small speck of dust from his sleeve. Then he walked toward the platform, stepping over bodies without looking down. "High Chancellor," he said, his voice perfectly level. "I believe we were in the middle of a discussion." Vorith's translator struggled to convey the trembling in his voice. "What are you? What kind of creature are you?" Daniel stopped at the base of the platform. He looked up at the 2 remaining council members with eyes that held no anger, no hatred, no emotion at all. "I told you what I am," he said. "I am a diplomat. I came here to talk, to make peace, to find a solution that would benefit both our peoples. You chose to make me something else." He gestured at the fallen guards around him. These soldiers were trained their entire lives to kill. They had strength that no human can match. They had weapons that should have torn me apart, and I killed them all in 53 seconds. He took another step toward the platform. Vorith flinched back. "I am 53 years old," Daniel continued. "My best days are behind me. My reflexes are slower than they used to be. My joints ache when it rains. I am an old man, Chancellor, and I just killed 18 of your finest warriors without breaking a sweat." He let that sink in for a moment. Then he spoke the words that would change the galaxy forever. "Now imagine what our young soldiers can do." Vorith sat down heavily in his chair. His claws gripped the armrest so tightly that the crystal cracked beneath his grip. Sketh remained standing, but his posture had changed. He no longer looked like a predator. He looked like something small and afraid. Daniel smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a man who had delivered a message that could not be ignored. "I think," he said softly, "that we need to start this negotiation over. And this time, High Chancellor, I suggest you listen very carefully to what I have to say." The council chamber was silent, except for the soft hum of the lights above. The smell of burned flesh and scorched metal hung in the air. 18 bodies lay scattered across the floor, their blood pooling on the polished stone. And in the middle of it all stood Daniel Carter, his suit still clean, his gray hair barely out of place, looking up at the two most powerful beings in the galaxy. High Chancellor Vorith had not moved from his chair. His scales had lost their color. His yellow eyes kept darting to the fallen guards, as if he could not believe what he was seeing. 1,000 years of Velthury rule had made him think he was untouchable. In less than a minute, a single human had shattered that belief. Sketh the Crossian had finally sat down. His forearms were folded across his chest, but there was no aggression in the gesture. He was protecting himself. Hiding behind his armored shell like a child, hiding under a blanket. Lara and Kevin had moved closer to Daniel, but they stayed several steps behind him. They were still in shock. Laura's hands were shaking so badly that she had to hold them together to keep them still. Kevin had stopped trying to fix his glasses. He just stared at Daniel with wide, unbelieving eyes. Daniel waited. He was patient. He had learned long ago that silence could be more powerful than words. Let them think. Let them understand what had just happened. Let them imagine what could happen next. Finally, Vorith spoke. His voice was hoarse, stripped of the arrogance that had filled it just minutes before. "What do you want?" Daniel smiled slightly. "I want what I came here for. A peaceful agreement. Fair terms, respect." "You killed my guards," Vorith said. "You murdered them." "They tried to kill me first," Daniel replied calmly. "And more importantly, they tried to kill my people. That is something I cannot allow. That is something I will never allow." He took a step closer to the platform. Both Vorith and Sketh tensed, but neither of them moved. "Let me tell you something about humanity," Daniel said. "Something your spies and your scientists have apparently failed to understand. We are not peaceful by nature. We are peaceful by choice." He began to walk slowly, his footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. As he walked, he spoke, and his voice filled the room like the tolling of a bell. 200,000 years ago, my ancestors lived in caves. They fought with sticks and stones. They killed each other over food, over shelter, over territory. They were weak and small, surrounded by predators that were stronger and faster and deadlier. Every other species on our planet thought humans would be easy prey. He paused and looked at the bodies on the floor. They were wrong. He continued walking, his hands clasped behind his back, his tone almost conversational. Humans learned to make weapons. First from stone, then from metal, then from fire itself. Every generation, we found new ways to kill, new ways to destroy. When our predators tried to eat us, we hunted them to extinction. When we ran out of enemies, we turned on each other. Voreth shifted uncomfortably in his seat. That is barbaric. Yes, Daniel agreed. It is. We have had wars that killed millions. We have built weapons that could destroy entire cities in a single flash of light. We have fought over land, over resources, over ideas, over nothing at all. Our history is written in blood. He stopped walking and turned to face the platform directly. But here's the part you need to understand, Chancellor. Despite all of that, we are still here. Every challenge we faced, we overcame. Every enemy that tried to destroy us, we defeated. Ice ages, plagues, famines, world wars. We survived them all. Not because we were the strongest, not because we were the smartest, but because we never give up. We never stop fighting. We never accept defeat. Sketh's mandibles clicked softly. You sound proud of this violence. Daniel shook his head. No, I am not proud of it. I have seen what violence does. I have done things that haunt my dreams every night. But I am not ashamed of it either. Violence is a tool, just like any other. The question is not whether you are willing to use it. The question is whether you are wise enough to know when. He reached into his jacket pocket. Voreth and Sketh both flinched, expecting a weapon. But Daniel only pulled out a small data chip. He held it up so they could see it clearly. This contains the terms my government has proposed for the Kepler mining rights. They are fair terms. Reasonable terms. Terms that benefit both humanity and the Council. I was prepared to negotiate in good faith. I was prepared to make compromises. I was prepared to leave this station with a deal that would prove to the galaxy that humans and aliens can work together. He set the chip on the edge of the platform. But now things have changed. Now you have shown me what you really think of humanity. You think we are weak. You think we are easy targets. You think you can kill our people and we will do nothing. His voice hardened. You were wrong. He pointed at the bodies on the floor. Those 18 soldiers were the best your species had to offer. Trained from birth. Armed with the finest weapons. Protected by armor that should have been unbreakable. And I killed them all. Alone. Unarmed. In less than a minute. He let that sink in before continuing. I am 53 years old. My reflexes are not what they used to be. My body is wearing out. I am past my prime, Chancellor. And yet, here I stand, surrounded by the corpses of your warriors. He leaned forward slightly. Earth is 8 billion people. Millions of them are younger than me, stronger than me, faster than me. Many of them have been trained the same way I was trained. And all of them, every single one, would die before they let you harm their families and their home. Voreth's claws dug into the arms of his chair. Are you threatening the Council? No, Daniel said. I am educating the Council. I am showing you what you would face if you ever tried to attack our planet. I am giving you a glimpse of what a war with humanity would look like. He straightened up and adjusted his tie. I did not come here to start a war. I came here to prevent one. Those terms on that chip are still valid. Accept them, and we can have peace. Reject them, and word of what happened here today will spread across the galaxy. Every species will learn that humanity is not to be trifled with. Every species will know that when you attack a human, death follows. He turned and walked back toward Lara and Kevin. Then he stopped and looked over his shoulder. You have 1 hour to make your decision, Chancellor. Choose wisely. He walked to his colleagues and gently took Laura's arm. She was still shaking. Kevin looked like he might faint at any moment. Come on. Daniel said softly. Let us give them some time to think. He led them toward the door. Behind them, the two remaining council members sat in stunned silence, surrounded by the bodies of their finest warriors, staring at the small data chip that held the future of the galaxy and its circuits. 3 days had passed since the incident in the council chamber. 3 days of tense negotiations, urgent communications with Earth, and sleepless nights for everyone involved. Now, finally, it was over. Daniel Carter stood on the observation deck of the Endeavor, the human diplomatic vessel that had brought them to the council station. Through the large windows, he could see the station shrinking in the distance as the ship accelerated toward the jump point that would take them home. The stars stretched out in every direction, cold and beautiful and endless. He held a cup of coffee in his hands. Real coffee, from Earth, brought on the ship for moments exactly like this. He breathed in the familiar smell and felt something inside him relax for the first time in days. The door behind him opened. Lavra Mitchell walked in, carrying a tablet computer. She looked better than she had in the council chamber. The color had returned to her face. Her hands were steady, but there was something different in her eyes now. Something that had not been there before. She had seen things she could never forget. Sir, she said, the council has transmitted the final documents. They have accepted all of our terms. The Kepler mining rights are ours. Daniel nodded slowly. Good. That is not all, Lavra continued. They are also requesting a formal non-aggression treaty. They want guarantees that humanity will not use what happened as an excuse to attack them. Daniel almost laughed at that. Almost. They are afraid of us now. Yes, sir. Very afraid. She walked closer and stood beside him at the window. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just watched the stars together. Can I ask you something, sir? Lavra finally said, Go ahead. How did you do it? I have watched combat footage from a dozen species. I have seen the best soldiers in the galaxy in action. I have never seen anything like what you did in that chamber. Daniel took a sip of his coffee before answering. When I was young, he said slowly, my government chose me for a special program. They saw something in me, some potential for violence that most people do not have. They took that potential and they shaped it. They trained me in ways that would break most people. They taught me to kill with my hands, with weapons, with anything I could find. They turned me into a weapon. He stared out at the stars, but his eyes were seeing something else. Something far away and long ago. For 26 years, I served in the shadows. I did things that will never appear in any history book. I went to places that do not officially exist. I ended lives that my government decided needed to end. My colleagues called me the Reaper. I earned that name 100 times over. Lavra was quiet. She could hear the weight in his voice, the sorrow underneath the words. When I turned 45, I retired, Daniel continued. I thought I was done with that life. I thought I could spend my remaining years doing something good, something that would help people instead of hurting them. That is why I became a diplomat. I wanted to solve problems with words instead of weapons. He looked at her then, and she saw something in his eyes that surprised her. Not pride, not satisfaction, sadness. But some lessons never leave you, Lavra. Some skills stay with you forever, whether you want them or not. What I did in that chamber, I did because I had to, because they gave me no other choice. But I take no pleasure in it. I never have. Lavra nodded slowly. She thought about the bodies on the floor, the speed and precision of his movements, the calm look in his eyes as he killed. The council is terrified of us now, she said. Half the galaxy probably thinks we are monsters. Let them think it, Daniel replied. Fear is a powerful thing. If they are afraid of us, they will not attack us. If they do not attack us, we will not have to fight them. And if we do not have to fight them, no one else has to die. He turned away from the window and sat down in a chair near the wall. He suddenly looked older than his years, tired, worn down by the weight of everything he had done and everything he had seen. That is the real job of a diplomat, Laura, not to win wars, to make sure they never happen in the first place. Sometimes that means talking. Sometimes that means compromising. And sometimes, when all other options are gone, it means showing your enemy exactly what they would face if they chose violence. Kevin Price came through the door, still looking a bit pale but steadier than before. He had a tablet in his hand as well. "Sir, we are receiving reports from across the galaxy. The story of what happened is spreading. Different versions, some of them pretty wild. One says you killed 50 guards with your bare hands. Another says you tore through their elite soldiers like a demon from human legend." Daniel sighed. "Let them tell their stories. The truth is bad enough." "There is more," Kevin said. "Several neutral species have reached out to Earth. They want to open diplomatic relations. They say they are impressed by our courage and our strength. They want to be our friends." Lavra raised an eyebrow. "Friends? Or they want to make sure they are not our enemies?" "Both, probably," Daniel said. "It does not matter. What matters is that they are talking to us. That is a start." He stood up and walked back to the window. Earth was still many light years away, but he could picture it in his mind. Blue oceans, green continents, 8 billion people going about their lives, unaware of how close they had come to disaster. "We have changed things," he said quietly. "What happened in that chamber will be remembered for centuries. The day a human showed the galaxy that we are not weak, that we are not prey, that we are something to be respected." He turned to face his 2 young colleagues. "But with that respect comes responsibility. We cannot become what they fear. We cannot let our strength make us cruel or careless. We must use our power wisely, or we will become the monsters they think we are." Lavra and Kevin nodded. They understood. They had seen what Daniel was capable of, and they had also seen the man behind the violence. A man who killed without hesitation when he had to, but who took no joy in it. A man who carried the weight of every life he had ended. Daniel looked out the window one last time. The stars burned bright against the darkness, and somewhere among them, the galaxy was learning a new truth. Humanity had arrived. They had come in peace, but they were more than capable of war. And the quiet man in the black suit, the gray-haired diplomat who spoke softly and smiled politely, was death walking among them. Not because he wanted to be, but because sometimes, to protect the people you love, you have to become the thing that others fear. Daniel Carter had delivered his message. Now the galaxy would have to decide what to do with it. He finished his coffee and set the cup down. There would be more challenges ahead. More negotiations. More moments when words would not be enough. But for now, the job was done. He had kept his people safe. He had given Earth a future, and somewhere deep inside, the Reaper went back to sleep, waiting for the day when he might be needed again.